I don't look at somebody and say, oh, they're this huge star. Let me do something over the top and like try. Like I was just very like, okay, I just cooked the food as if I was cooking for my friends. I think a lot of people get the misconception, okay, this is a huge star. They want to eat caviar every night. They want to have lobster. Like they just want good food in the comfort of their own homes.
Welcome to the Private Chef podcast, serving the 1%. I'm your host, Hannes Henche, and on our show we speak to the best chefs, how they honed in on their skills to excel in the industry, and what it takes to work as a private chef for some of the most exclusive clients in the world. Welcome back to the Private Chef podcast. Today we have the exceptional chef Jhonen Breaux, sharing her captivating journey from New Orleans to Los Angeles, around the world, and an entire culinary scene that she explored while traveling it. We'll discover her culinary education and how her passion led her to become a personal chef. We'll also explore her experience cooking for A-list celebrities like Justin Bieber, uncovering the challenges and rewards of catering to their unique tastes. Chef Johnene will also talk about her strategies for infusing dishes with her unique flair while ensuring client satisfaction and meeting individual preferences and dietary requirements. Let's dive right in. Johnene, you literally just came back from France. You know, it's one of the aspects that I love about being a private chef. We get to travel, but it's also very demanding. You literally just shared with me before we got live of how you're jet lagged. So what is that like for a chef life?
Oh, wow. I mean, it depends on where you go. So coming from France, I think it's like a 9-hour time difference. So, man, I've been going to sleep at like 5:30 p.m. and waking up at 5 a.m. now. And it's worked out, though, because I work out in the morning when I wake up. But it takes a while, maybe like a week, at least 6-7 days to get back adjusted to LA time. But I'm not upset about like what's happening because, I'm working out. So like that's good. And then I'm not eating too late. So I'm looking at it like that, like, okay, my sleeping schedule might be a little off, but at least, I'm working out and I'm not eating after a certain time. So,
yeah. So what was your journey like as a chef? Where did the culinary passion come from? And is that something like being in New Orleans, is being a private chef, was it something that you had on your radar? Was it because, for example, for me personally, that was nothing. I was never exposed to private chef till I actually moved to New York eventually, and then I kind of found my way into the industry. Is that something that you had on your horizon already when you started?
You know what? I know cooking was always something that I loved, but the level that I'm doing now, I don't know if this exactly was it, but I know that I wanted to cook and I wanted to serve other people. Like, yeah, that was in New Orleans, I guess. When I was younger, my mom and I, we would pretend that we had a restaurant and we would make breakfast together. And that was like my foundation of me really like, oh, I really like food, like not just cooking, but just wanting to know about food, just food in general, serving other people. So I think as I got older, it kind of made me feel like, okay, I want to be a personal chef because I like to talk to people. And I also like to like make people feel special. I like to remember that thing that they love and like, yeah, so I think personal chef was really like that. That's what really made me want to kind of go in the lane of personal chef. Because in New Orleans, they don't have a lot of personal chef. They have them, but it's like more restaurant chefs. It's not really a market for like personal chefs. So that's what kind of led me to move to LA. Mm-hmm.
So you consciously moved there because you wanted to become a personal chef, working with clients in their houses, maybe, or traveling with them? Or did you get a job offer and you moved to LA?
I had a job offer for the summer of 2017, I think it was, but it was just for a temporary position during the summer. So during that time, I didn't even like, I lived with my aunt who was living here. I lived with her for that summer because I was still technically living in New Orleans, but my clients were so nice and they just loved me. They were just like, well, are you going to stay here when we leave? Because they were only visiting LA for the summer too. So they kind of connected me with people, and they are the ones that kind of got me started out here, really. Yeah.
And I think that's like kind of the thing about our industry. You need to find your unique angle into it because, you know, if you go through an agency, they don't want to place you because you don't have experience with a family. It's a different game. And so some families, somebody in the industry kind of needs to give you that first shot.
Absolutely. And you know what? That is so true, because I had trouble when I first started. It was always like 3 years minimum experience,
Yeah.
or like, that was the thing. So I was like, man, I don't have that. But I knew I loved to cook, and I knew that I could do what I was trying to do. But yeah, if it wasn't for those clients, it probably been a lot harder for me to try to really like solidify a client. Because even when I did move to LA, it wasn't like I had a client right then and there. Like, it still was a journey to really getting that client, like really having one client and like dedicating everything to them. Yeah.
What would you say for someone who's maybe just getting started made the difference in your journey delivering to that first couple clients to such a degree that they were willing to give you not only a reference but actually connected you with other families?
You know what I think it was? It was the simplicity of what I'm doing. Like, I don't look at somebody and say, "Oh, they're this huge star. Let me do something over the top and like try." Like, I was just very like, okay. I just cooked the food as if I was cooking for my friends or something like that. I just was very authentic, and it was good. So I think a lot of people get the misconception of like, okay, this is a huge star. They want to eat caviar every night. They want to have lobster. Like, they just want good food in the comfort of their own home. So that's what I did. I prepared good meals for them. And every time I cooked, they're like, "Oh my God, this is so good. Like, this is great." And I would just be like, "Thank you." So I think it was just me sticking to who I am and like not trying to like be over the top or do something I don't usually do. Like, I was just very like genuine.
Yeah. And I think you're making a point there. See, at the end of the day, people are human, and despite them maybe being able to afford the best meals on earth every day, they don't want to eat caviar on top of some Wagyu steak every day, and they grew up with different food most likely, and they're craving that kind of food too, like homey food, comfort food, and some of it may be healthy.
No, I agree. That's it. I think I think the whole point of a personal chef is to have what you want to eat, but to also be comfortable, not have to worry about taking pictures with people and people asking for your autograph. Just really being comfortable, being able to eat what you want to eat when you want to eat it.
Yeah. So what were your last couple of years like being in LA? It's obviously very different from where you come from originally in New Orleans. What was it like for you to learn the ropes and also kind of just to get accustomed to that kind of high-end A+ celebrities kind of clientele and traveling the world with them? What was your experience?
It's been a very like unique journey, I'll say. Because when I first came here, I was working with the clients that kind of were only here for the summer. And then after that, I was working with this company called Culinary Staffing, where you could pretty much just pick shifts that you want to work at. So I worked at different hotels. I worked at Pepperdine once, like just any shift that I wanted to do. So that was really like kind of helped me with my bills and stuff like that. But like, once I solidified the client that I have now that I've been working with for about 6 years, that kind of was more so like my break in, like really like okay, I have a client. And that happened maybe a year or two after I was in LA. And then that kind of just, when I started working with him, I was traveling everywhere, all over the world. I mean, we did 3 tours, one European tour. So I was able to really like see a good bit of the world, cooking gumbo and catfish and all of those things. So it was kind of like that throughout, like up until now, and it's still like that now because I'm been traveling internationally lately too.
Yeah.
So it was it was a journey, because I don't want people to think you just come out here and you get a client and boom, it just works. Like, I had to kind of do some other stuff first to really get my foot in the door with that. So, and like network with other chefs, you know what I'm saying? Other chefs that are here, I would get with them and like talk to them and see, do you need help? Or, do you have a client that may be looking? Or, so it's kind of like word of mouth too.
And I'm glad you're sharing that because, think the reality is it's easy to posture, you know, like, oh, I came to New York, I came to LA, and then I was suddenly in this fancy environment and I was cooking for these kind of people. But the reality is your journey as well as my journey, as the journey of many chefs that I spoke to, you know, it's different. And there's moments where you're like in despair and where you have to slog it out and where you have to find alternatives for your income just to pay the bills.
Yeah, because LA is not cheap. And those bills are going to come regardless if you got a client or not. You know what I'm saying? So, look, that's it. You got to like, I was working a lot of different jobs that I did not want to do. But I knew I had to do it in order to survive, really.
Yeah.
I mean,
but I mean, the beauty is you not only survived, but you thrived. Like now you've been with the same client for 6 years. You know, it's very solidified relationship. Mm-hmm. How would you say that for you, the relationship over these years has shifted from, you know, in the early stage when we start working with someone, it's a little bit like, okay, let me try to get accustomed to them. And it's kind of that dance to get to know each other and actually feel if this is a good working relationship. But there's a point where you're like into a few years where you also can really trust each other if it's a healthy relationship and you know what we can expect and what will be delivered. And
no, absolutely. I think now it's gotten to the point where we know each other. I know him well, he knows me well, and I know what he needs. I know what he expects from me. And I think that's so important because sometimes you have clients that may not even say what they need and you just kind of got to figure it out. But it's like once you figure it out, you feel so much better because now I know that I'm meeting your needs. You know what I'm saying? So I think for sure now I know what he expects of me when we travel, when we're in LA, when we're, you know, whatever. But it's like my job changes like that because like even when I was just in France, like I would be cooking in the kitchen in Cannes. Then we go to Paris for a day. I'm cooking in the kitchen in Paris. So I don't think people realize that's a tough thing to do when you have to go from kitchen to kitchen and still execute the meal properly. The grocery stores are different. Everything is different. You know what I'm saying? But you still got to get in there and cook the food as if you're in LA. So I think now that I know what he needs and that we've been doing it for a while, it's definitely made my job a lot easier for me to do. It's not easy, but it's just, you know what I'm saying? I'm more comfortable. Like I know what he needs. So it definitely helps.
Yeah. And I can totally relate to what you said. Like every kitchen is different. The markets are different. You find yourself in different environments. Maybe there's even a language barrier. Like going to France, they're not exactly English friendly.
Oh my God, that part. Because I've learned a good bit of Spanish. So if we go to like, you know, somewhere over there, then I'm kind of like, I'm good because I know a good bit of that. But when I get to France, it's like, man, all I know is merci beaucoup. I know bonjour. I know préjavois. That's one that I just learned. But I was just telling my friend, like, I need to learn French because that also, they don't, when you're in the kitchen and you're trying to cook, you have to stop and get on Google Translate and ask somebody like, where is this? Or like, you know, it's just a lot. So I definitely want to learn French for those reasons.
And that's the thing, you know, people think kitchen is a kitchen, food is food. But when you get in a different kitchen environment, everything takes like twice as long. It's like a simple thing. You're looking for a whisk. You don't know where the whisk is. You don't know where the bowl is. Just gathering simple material to start executing on the meal. Everything takes you twice as long till you eventually, and by the time you got the kitchen figured out, you're back in the plane and you're in the next city.
And guess what? I just was saying that by the time you get the kitchen figured out, you on to a new kitchen. Yeah. By the time you get their staff, because even if you are cooking and you just need to ask for a whisk, it's not as simple as if you're in the United States and say, hey, where's a whisk? You got to get on your phone, type, hey, where's a whisk in French, show it to them. Then they, you know what I'm saying? They're like, oh, you know, so it's just like you said, everything is twice as long. Yeah.
Yeah. So what are some of the things that you would say are the most challenging and maybe on the other end of the spectrum, most rewarding about being a private chef?
I think the most challenging probably would be adjusting to the different like having to get on the plane, get to these kitchens and like translate and all of those things. I think that is pretty challenging. And staying on top of stuff, making sure you have everything you need. Um, that's not challenging, but it's just kind of like one of those things where like you got to be like 10 steps ahead if you go into another country. You know what I'm saying? So just making sure all of those things are ready. Because the last thing you want to do is be looking for all kind of stuff when you get to the plate. You know what I'm saying? And that it's just so crazy how stuff happens. Because even when you do try to plan ahead, it's still like one thing that kind of like just mess everything up, you know? But just got to figure it out.
Yeah, and there's places where the quality of things, and I think that's probably less a problem going to France, but there is places where we sometimes travel to where the quality just is so bad, and Caribbean is one of those usually. It's like, I try to take as much protein and fresh fish and stuff as possible, like depending on the place. If I know it's going to be bad, I want to be as ready and prepared as possible, because I don't want to deal with the hassle of like not getting the quality I want or not getting that. Like, I was so surprised, you know, when there's basic products like chicken, you can't get it on certain days because, you know, the shipment wasn't there or something. I'm like, this is like island life. Products are not available. So sometimes that's something we have to be on top depending on where we're going.
No, for sure. I usually bring andouille sausage with me and catfish for the most part. And I'll just freeze it and have it in my check bag. But you're right. Like, they do things so different. Like, I think even in France, the markets close at like 8 or something like that. Like, they close really early. So
the French already
it's just
think
those
8
little
is
things
late.
that kind of, yeah. It's those little things that try to mess you up, but it's just like, that's why you got to always just be ready, because it's just like, you just never know.
You know, one time I was home for Christmas, and I woke up like Christmas Day at 1 p.m. or something, and my dad asked me what I want to do for dinner. And I was like, well, I'll just go to the shop and get some. And he's like, what are you talking about? Shops are closed today. I'm like, oh, I guess I'm not in New York.
Right. No, that's what it is. Like, you would think, because I'm not thinking about that when I'm going to these places. I'm just thinking like, oh, I'm going to go to the store. But like, when you get there, it's like, oh, the markets have this, or they don't have that, or it closes at this time. It's like, oh, I forgot I'm going to a totally different part of the world. Like, it's not going to be the same, you know?
So how much of these different places in the world do you actually get to see, enjoy when traveling?
Sometimes, like, usually I'm there a day ahead of my client. So on those days, I try to get out. But I've been to France years ago, so I already kind of experienced the Eiffel Tower and like all of those things. But this time, since I was in the south of France, I went kind of just around the beach and just look around there for a bit. I try to get out and explore when I can.
Yeah.
But it's sometimes you just can't.
Yeah.
Because the last thing you want to do is be somewhere and you out, you know, sightseeing, and your client like, what's going on? You know what I'm saying?
It's like, I thought you wanted to make me a snack now. And you're like chilling at the beach somewhere.
Exactly.
So what is one of the things that you love the most, the rewarding part of the spectrum?
I think being able to travel, honestly, like being able to travel, I meet so many great people when I go to these places. And we always stay connected. Not everybody, but most people I stay connected with. And just like, I think I was just in like Abu Dhabi and Dubai and all of that, like sometime, I think I was there in March. And, you know, that trip really helped me realize like we are all the same. Like, everybody gets sad. Everybody's had like, people have this energy. Energy is undeniable, but like, you know what I'm saying? You could look at these people and see that they have on their, you know, whatever their tradition is, what they wear and stuff like that. And you would think like, oh, this person is totally different from me. But I was talking to these people and they talk just like they talk just like me. You know what I'm saying? It really like made me realize like, wow, we are all the same, you know? We just have different things, different rules that we live by, but at the end of the day, we all feel the same. We see stuff, you know? So
I think it's a beautiful thing you're pointing out is also, you know, there are some genuine expressions which are just cultureless, like a smile. Everybody understands a smile.
Exactly.
And there's something human underneath all of that cultural differences that just makes it so obvious that we're all connected and part of maybe one tribe at the end of the day. Even so, right now the world seems to be a little bit more divided than it should be.
No, that is and that's why I was telling my friend that when I was at a store in France, this lady was like, she was like trying to skip me or something, but she was just seeming like she didn't realize, like, girl, I'm in front of you. And like, I was telling her, like, I should have told her something. I was like, you don't have to speak French to see that somebody's upset. You know what I'm saying? Like,
yeah,
I don't need to speak French. You know what I'm saying? So it's like, you might not know English, I might not know French, but we know energy. So,
yeah,
so it's just like that. Like,
that's for sure. And but then also sometimes there's this cultural difference where people think they speak normal, but it's very intense. Like there's cultures who speak very loudly and very intensely. And sometimes for me, I'm like, hey, why are you guys screaming at each other? But they're like, no, we're just having a casual conversation. And I'm like, okay.
Right. And I think that goes back to like everybody just in their culture that might be like, oh, we just talking. But to us, it's like, oh, everything okay? Like, like what's going on?
Yeah, 100%. So what are you currently excited about? What's up on the schedule that you're really looking forward? Something where you feel like you're learning something new?
I don't really. I think I'm learning that like I'm really doing a lot of stuff here. I think I don't realize until you like sit back. Like this last trip really made me realize like, wow, girl, you really like you're doing some stuff. Cause I think when you're doing it, it doesn't really seem like a lot until you sit back and analyze it and like, wow, you know what I'm saying? So I think that is something I'm discovering. And like, I'm also working on a TV show that I have called Behind the Plate. That's something that I really want to like really focus on because the stuff that I do is just, I don't think people would realize how I'm getting this food to these people. Like sometimes I'm on a yacht or sometimes I'm like at one villa one day, the next I'm on a totally different one. You know what I'm saying? But I make it happen. I make the food is still great and it's still executed properly, regardless of the circumstance. So I really want to showcase that and like let people see behind the plate.
So you want to produce it yourself?
Yeah. I have a creative director that I work with that he's helped me a lot on a few episodes. But for the most part, I try to capture as much as I can myself with my phone when I'm overseas.
Nice. I hope you didn't sign an NDA.
Oh, with signing it today with what? My client? Oh yeah, no, but it's not. It's not really. It's more so about me. It's not like I'm trying to show them. Yeah.
Yeah. It's maybe less about the client, more so about the environment. Sometimes they don't want the part of the environment to be published, and maybe less so if it's just a kitchen. But like, I give you an example. There was a lady. She had a really good YouTube channel. She was a private chef on a yacht. And it was a pretty good channel, and it had substantial amount of followers. And they eventually fired her off the yacht when they saw the channel.
Oh my God!
And they basically had her take off every single video that had anything to do with the yacht, which was like 90% of the channel. She had to cut it out, and she had to go back to the drawing board and basically just take scenery shoots from other parts of her journey and kind of try to put it back together. But all of her material that was shot on the yacht was basically...
Oh my God. Well, let's hope that doesn't happen to me, huh?
Yeah, 100%. That's why I'm pointing it out. You might want to have that conversation.
Might have a little conversation, huh? Yeah. You're right, Chef. I should, huh?
Yeah, it's just... I give you another example. There was a chef. He just released a book, but he's retired now, private chef. He's worked for different presidents and stuff, and he just had full disclosure in the book. It was like, there's no way in heaven the families will not go after him.
Families will not what?
They will definitely go after him and sue him for the stuff that he published. And that's something that I always feel like it's a very fine line, we dance where it's like what is okay to show and what is not. A couple of years ago, I worked with a nanny that made part of the trips her personal Instagram. The family got really upset with her because it's a little bit of a security issue for the family because it's like a live update as to where they are. So there's those different nuances, and we never know how the family feels about it.
Well, that's with me. I don't really like. It's not like, if anything, my location would be France. Like, it's not going to be like at this hotel. I would never do that. And usually what I'm doing is I'm capturing the food, and I might have a few shots of me cooking, but I'm never like, hey, I'm in France at this hotel with this client. Like, no, I never do that. It's still very discreet.
Yeah, good. I think that's the way it needs to be done.
Mm-hmm. Oh, yeah, trust me, because if it was any other way, I would not be talking to you right now. Trust me. I think people, when they get their first, and you know how it is, when you get your first huge client, you want to just label yourself as that. And it's like, I didn't do that. It wasn't until now where I'm kind of really walking into it like, okay, I've earned the title to say I'm this person's chef. You know what I'm saying? 6 years. So I'll flex a little bit every now and then, but only because like I've earned it. I've earned it.
Yeah.
So
I would agree. I think 6 years is a proper streak.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, that's a long time.
So, chef, I know you're getting ready to work. I don't want to hold you anyway. Where can people connect with you? Where can they potentially find your show in the future, Behind the Plate?
Behind the Plate. Hopefully it'll be on one of those big networks like Netflix or Hulu or what is that other one? They have a bunch. Hopefully it's one of those. But until then, I'm on Instagram as Chef Johnene Joy. That's ChefJohnene Joy. And also, I have a few episodes on YouTube. I think if you just type in Behind the Plate with Chef Johnene Joy, you should see some. Also on TikTok, I post a good bit of stuff on TikTok. I feel like my TikTok name is Chef Johnene Joy too. So that's where everybody can find me.
Awesome. Well, thank you so much for taking the time. I know that you're very busy. You literally pointed it out earlier. If we don't record now, this will take a couple of weeks till we're back on.
Yeah, I don't know when I'll be able to do it. So I was like, let me do it. And I as soon as I changed it yesterday, like my schedule changed just like that. So I'm like, oh, but I didn't want to change it again because I know we changed it so many times already. So I'm like, well, I got to do it now, so, but it worked out. So thank you for, being available to do with my new schedule.
Awesome. Thank you very much, Johnene.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you for joining us at the Private Chef podcast. If you know any highly skilled chefs that want to take their life to the next level, make sure to share this podcast with them. And if you enjoyed this episode, click subscribe and check out our upcoming episodes. Thank you for listening.